Welcome in, everybody. I'm Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune. That is my good friend Dionne Miller of ABC 7. We are talking Bears. It is April. There's still a lot to talk about. We're just about a week away from the NFL draft. The Bears still hold a top 10 pick. But Dionne, I wanted to start the conversation with some big NFL news that may have a ripple effect here in Chicago. Jalen Hurts, less than 3 years removed from being drafted in the second round in 2020, just became the highest paid player in the NFL. Obviously, the Bears have a quarterback in Justin Fields. What do you make of all this?
Well, it's insane money. I do believe that you and I both picked the wrong profession. It's interesting because it was jarring. Like, the numbers are jarring, and does he deserve it? Yes, I totally agree. How it impacts Justin, I feel like that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. It would be awesome if the Bears were at a point where they felt they had a quarterback that they needed to pay that kind of money to. The Bears have never invested that kind of money into any play. Like, no team has, but even relatively, I'm saying in a relatively speaking space, they've never competed at that level, right? Of like the highest paid players in the league. That's not who the Bears are. So I hope that this got their attention, at least, knowing that they would love to have this problem. They would love to be like finding the money to pay Justin Fields to be the face of this franchise for many years to come, and to take them to the level that Jalen Hurts has taken the Eagles. It's interesting to me. I had to think back of when Patrick Mahomes got his contract, and it was sort of similar, right? We all were kind of like, whoa, jarring numbers and highest paid player and da-da-da. And now that's like the sixth biggest contract in the league. Well, I mean, it's amazing how that resets itself.
I was going to say that Jalen Hurts is the highest paid player in NFL history, and it's probably going to be for about 6 or 7 weeks. And then Joe Burrow is going to go out to Cincinnati and get the vault open and ask them for everything they've got and become the highest paid player in NFL history. And that is, for me, what is most relevant about that is it's after season 3 for these guys. It was like that for Mahomes. It was like that for Watson. It was like that for, obviously, Jalen Hurts. It's going to be like that for Joe Burrow. There's a whole list of guys in recent years that that's where you come to your decision on a quarterback most times. And so that's why I think that it does at least relate to Chicago. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Justin Fields is going to have a year where he takes the Bears deep in the playoffs and is in the MVP conversation and a top 3 MVP getter and becomes one of these guys that's in the conversation to become the highest paid player in NFL history a year from now. But what I will tell you is it tells you how significant the 2023 evaluation of who Justin Fields is for Ryan Poles, for the Chicago Bears, for the direction of where this franchise is going. And I just think it reminds you of how loudly that quarterback clock is always ticking, because tick-tock, you need to know at this time next year what direction you want to go to with Justin Fields. At the early part of May of 2024, the Bears are going to have to make a decision on whether they want to exercise the 5th-year option on Justin's rookie contract, and that's for 2025. So you're talking about, okay, you have to make a commitment now that's going to be probably in the ballpark of $25 million for his 5th season before he even starts his 4th season. And so now you've got to know what you're dealing with. What's your vision? What do you believe in? What don't you believe in? Again, it sets up for 2023 to be this very, very compelling watch for people like you and me, and a very pressure-packed situation for guys like Ryan and Justin.
Dan, I actually have like Christmas jitters thinking about how excited I am to see what Justin Fields is able to do in the season. I will say that just this last week, I found, now bear with me, GQ Sports did like a series with athletes of like your top 10 essential things that you need in your life, right? And they interviewed Justin Fields, and he went through like his top 10 essential things, but he did it with personality, with energy. And that's what caught me, right? I just feel like something shifted this last year, that he kind of became more of that alpha leader. The Bears don't have any of those guys. Like, they don't have any of those guys. And Justin, by default, because he's the quarterback, is going to have to do that. But listening to him by himself, look in a camera and kind of go over the things that are essential to him and laugh at himself. And he seemed much more mature. And if that's what's happening off the field, I think it will translate on the field as well. And that's why I can't wait to see. We know how significant it is. It will set this franchise back horribly, I believe, if he is not who they need him to be. And I feel like they're starting to see enough to feel like they feel at least comfortable with him right now, right? And just waiting for him to take that next big step.
I like your phraseology there, the Christmas jitters. That's a good turn of phrase to make me feel what you're feeling. And I think it's just really interesting because you and I have talked about this for more than a year now, that Justin's wiring isn't the question. You know, that wiring is there, that alpha mentality, that ability to bring people around him up is very important. And I said this on the Take North podcast with David Haw, that one of the things that I love about Justin is he's not playing to become the highest paid player in the NFL. He's playing for the guys around him. He's playing to bring out the best in himself. He's playing because he loves the pursuit as a group of going after a championship. And so hopefully he can put the pressure that the year 3 evaluation carries behind him, or at least to the side, and approach this year knowing exactly what they need to see out of him. Again, it's quicker decision making, it's better pocket presence, it's just passing production that needs to go up for this conversation to advance. And obviously Ryan Poles needs to see that, because a year from now he's going to face a very, very interesting decision on what he believes in with this quarterback. And if he's feeling unsettled, well, this entire city is going to become a very uncomfortable place to be, because people aren't going to know what to do with that emotion.
Yeah, well, and as excited as I am, let's not mistake that for the reality of this team has such a long way to go. And I hope with the draft, we see that he addresses the needs on both sides of the line, right? Like the offensive line, defensive line, that's where they need the most help. And to feel better about the direction of both of those units after the draft, I think will give us a better idea of how we should feel about approaching this season.
I know you always like my homework, so I got some homework here for you that I can relate from some stuff that I wrote at ChicagoTribune.com about how the Hurts extension kind of has some parallels in Chicago, or at least makes us think about some certain things. But from 2011 to 2019, there were 28 quarterbacks drafted in the first round of the draft.
Wow.
Only 10 got second contracts with the team that drafted them. Lamar Jackson's still pending. He could become the 11th any day now. Only 6 of those 10 made it to the 6th season with the team that drafted them. You think about guys like Jared Goff got paid after his 3rd season. Carson Wentz got paid after his 3rd season. Well, guess what? They went out the door and went elsewhere. The irony of the whole thing is their franchises that they left made a pivot at quarterback and ended up winning Super Bowls with new guys at the position, which is like, that doesn't seem like the traditional route to doing it.
No.
You know, and I wouldn't suggest that the Bears go pay Justin Fields and then get rid of him and then try to win a Super Bowl with someone else. But it just tells you kind of how the percentages are in terms of trying to get your forever quarterback, trying to get the guy that you believe in to actually be the guy that you believe he is, right? And so that's a really hard riddle that the Bears are going to have to play. I think we both agree that it's going to play out in fascinating form in 2023. And to your point, the draft now has to become a vehicle for them to help Justin bring out what's in Justin.
Yes, because we cannot continue to say, well, he doesn't have talent around him. He has better receivers instantly. They need to now upgrade in front of him and then really see who he is. Like if he becomes that pocket quarterback that they need him to be, Dan, then they are going to have to write a big check and they'll be happy to do it. They will be happy to do it. And now that Kevin Warren is on the job, officially on the job, you know that he's going to be, I think, more apt to open that checkbook than any predecessor he had, or even the McCaskies have had.
There's no question. And so this will all be really interesting to watch play out. I'm curious, like I had a conversation with Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network, published the entire Q&A at ChicagoTribune.com. But one of the things that he said is viewing this 2023 year a little bit more narrowly focused, knowing you're not going to pursue championships realistically with the roster you have assembled. Maybe you do just focus on the offensive side of the ball and make this, his suggestion was make this an offensive heavy draft. It doesn't mean ignore defense altogether, but make this an offensive heavy draft so that your most important chore, which is evaluating Justin, can get done in a way that is thorough and comprehensive, knowing that, okay, we did give him everything he needed on the offensive line. We did give him a lot to work with in his, receiving core and running back room and tight end group. And so now you can do that evaluation more. I'm curious what you think of that about kind of just when in doubt, go offense next week.
Okay, so there are a few voices in the NFL that I respect more than Daniel Jeremiah. Like he knows what he's doing, right? And he knows he evaluates this league better than maybe anyone, right? However, the Bears need defensive linemen. They need someone who can put pressure on an opposing quarterback. They had none of that last year. None of it, Dan. You can't keep asking your DBs and your linebackers to do stuff that your D linemen are supposed to do and they can't do. And now it's just they desperately need that kind of help up front.
So last question for you. What is the most intriguing plot line for you going into the draft next week?
Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter's the most intriguing plotline. I think it's interesting that we heard his voice this week. I don't know where I don't know where I heard it. That's so terrible, right? Like I listen to so many things, but when he just talked about that he was talking to all these teams and no one really brought up the incident that has everyone outside of
it. They did a feature on Drew Rosen.
That's right.
On
That's
Real
right.
Sports,
That's right.
And that was part of it. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yes. And it's that I found that very interesting. I don't know how I will feel if the Bears decide to select him, but I feel at this moment in time, I want to say that Ryan Poles has done enough to earn my trust to this moment. So if he makes that decision, he'll have to do, I think, a bit of damage control around it. But that's the most intriguing thing to me. If Jalen Carter's even there, if he's even there, or if the Bears stay at 9. I mean, the Jalen Carter is to me the most intriguing storyline when it comes to where the Bears currently sit. Now, if that changes, then I think the storylines change. But that's kind of where my focus is.
There's certainly a growing buzz that, the Seahawks at 5 could pull him off the board, that the Lions at 6 could maybe bring him in, put him next to Aiden Hutchinson and make life for Justin Fields a little bit more difficult in the year ahead. It's going to be interesting to see where Jalen Carter goes. It'll be interesting to see if Brian even faces that decision, because to your point, if Jalen Carter is on the board at number 9, the Bears make a decision there. They either take him or they take someone else. And either way, Ryan Poles has to explain where his evaluation of Jalen Carter was. And that's going to be fascinating for us at Hallis Hall to try and get into the mind of the general manager, who I know has done his homework. You know that him and Ian Cunningham and the rest of that staff have gone through this comprehensively and done the assessment to the finest detail possible. Well, now just tell us a little bit about where your mindset was, where your philosophies were.
Yeah.
Heard a little bit from Ryan at the owners' meetings last month about just trying to make sure that your locker room is ready for risk, and trying to make that calculus. That's something the general manager has to do. Certainly something Ryan will have to do in this case going forward.
I don't want to tell him what to do, but I'm not sure the locker room's ready for that kind of risk.
I think he agrees with you right now, but again, time will tell, and draft night Thursday, a week from now, will tell us. That's Dionne Miller. I'm Dan Wiederer. Great episode. We got a lot more ahead for you. Keep following us, subscribe, tell your friends. Keep growing the channel. We'll bring you more content. For Dionne,
see you next time.
I'm Dan. We'll see you.